Hello and welcome, John here for another 8050 tutorial, and what we're going to be doing in this episode is looking at how to use cameras and apply cameras to our After Effects project. We're going to be doing this on top of our B cartoon. If you've not seen this so far, feel free to go back and check those out. We're just going to be using that as a template. So last time what we did is we applied lip syncing, and that's what we did last time. So let's get started, shall we? The first thing I'm going to need to do is import my background. Okay, with my background imported, I'm ready to use. Quick side note at this point, if you look here where I've got Hive highlighted, you can see the size of this document. I created it. And that's 2000 pixels by 1400 pixels. In this project, if I press Ctrl K to look at our settings, that's weird. That should be 1920 by 1080. Weird. I'm going to fix that now while I'm here. 1920 by 1080. Should have been full HD. There we go. Now it's full HD. So my scene is not as big as this image, and I've done that intentionally. So if I drag and drop that onto here, let me drag that down to the bottom. I've done that because if I want to scale in or mess about with it, I've got a bit of quality. It's not going to start to fade out and look messy for a while. So I can zoom out and it's going to have a whole lot of clarity and a lot of detail. And what I could potentially even do is take all these images down to 540. You know what? I think I will. I think I'm going to take everything down to half HD. So it'll still look nice and it'll look good enough. So just going half HD, and I'm going to grab everything and scale that down accordingly. That way it's going to give me quite a lot of room to play with on my background. Cool. That's ready. Let's click all those back in and set up our background. So at the moment our background is this huge area. Let me bring it down so it's a bit tighter, a bit closer. And what we are going to want to do is pull it over here because my action is going to take place as it all moves left. And let's go ahead and start creating our scene, our camera. So we're going to go to Layer, New Camera. And we're just going to use default because by default that's good enough. And that little warning that I just ticked away says cameras only affect 3D layers. So we need to turn all these layers 3D. And we do so by clicking underneath this 3D cube. If you don't have that, just make sure you toggle this first button at the 3 at the bottom left. Oop, there we go. Gotta make sure we've got everything. Oh no. When I scaled, the math didn't follow. Or did it? Let's just put that back in place, which I think was about here. And we totally want to parent that to our B. You know what I'm actually going to do? I'm going to bring my sound down here, get this out of the way. I'm going to pre-compose all of these. Call it B. Cool, so that way when I'm tweaking and changing that, it should be good. Awesome. So now we are ready to rock and use the cameras. So inside our camera, we've got like our usual transform, and we have our camera options. So you can toggle those for like a nice easy way of zooming in. Depth of field, it's not something I'm going to be that concerned with today. That's it creates a beautiful effect where if something is further away from the camera, it could look blurry, and what would be close to the camera might be in focus. That's a really nice effect. I'll probably do a separate tutorial on that at some other time. Because like I say, we don't really need that. And we don't really need all of these right now. We're just going to be playing with the transform tools. Cool. So now we're ready. Let's jump straight in and have a look. So what I'm going to do to make this easy to use is, it's just going to be keyframing these as usual. And, kind of like a base point keyframe in case we want to tweak all of them. So in this first scene, this is where our character enters. And all we're going to have is a slow pull left, a slow pan left, if we use that correct terminology. So over here, where we have one view, we want to change that to, well, personally I like to use two views horizontal. And let me sort of explain what we're looking at here. In this view here at the top left, you see this big triangle? This is basically our camera's field of view. And if we go in and we zoom in on the bottom part, and I'm using my middle mouse button to move around and rolling in, we've got these three arrows. So if you've ever used any 3D software before, like Blender or Max, Maya, Unreal, anything like that, you will be familiar with these arrows. If I grab my blue arrow and pull it in like this, you see it zooming in on the overall picture. So I'm going to start with loosely, that is fine for me at this starting point. But what I want to do is I want my camera to actually move a bit with my character as he's walking across as he's flying even across the scene. Not much. And maybe I'll tweak it, make it a bit dynamic by zooming in. And then let's go back and have a look how this looks. Awesome, so we can see the camera is moving left, but at the moment our character is not. So let's just quickly animate him by pressing P for position, turn on our keyframe. Let's see, he gets on frame here. Over here, I'm going to want him to be off frame, off scene. So fly on, and then fly left as well with the camera. Awesome. And we'll tweak that and we can play with that more as we go in, should we want to. But next, what I want to happen is we have this small transition where he flies over to talk to the lady bee. So we actually want him to stop about there to match up with the audio and pull this about there as well. And now we've got this moment here where we're going to switch to a long shot, like a really, really long shot. So we'll be able to see a lot of the hive and a lot of what's going on. So we want to find about where our camera is over here, and we are literally going to, in the next shot, just switch to a long shot. And what I could do is I could pull out my camera here, like that, but I'm not going to. What I'm actually going to do is I'll just duplicate this camera. Control D, duplicate, and sorry, it is not going to start until about this point. But this camera 2, is going to be all zoomed out. Right, let's lock this one so I can't tweak it. Camera 2. In fact, we don't need to pull it on back. Just keep zooming. Make sure we've got the right camera selected. In fact, what I'm going to do is go into my camera options, and on my position I can just pull this third one. And I'm going to want to, oops, drag it left a bit as well. Wrong one. Awesome. And let's find again where this shot ends. It'll be about here. Let's zoom back in, go to one view, and have a look, see how that looks. I think I'm actually too far zoomed out. I'm just going to scale up my hive a bit because my drawing lines sort of end there. Right, so in this shot, my B position actually went in a bit more over there. Delete the second one. And pull that to the left. And for this shot, he's going to fly over to the other guy, to the other lady, be about that over here. Scale this up, find my second camera, and I'm going to zoom that out still a bit more. Oops, not point of interest. Control Z that. So we really want to sell this long shot. So to help sell the long shot, what I'm actually going to do is go back and tweak my first frames. Let me zoom in a bit. There we go. And let's, oops, wrong one, this one here. Where locked, let's unlock that. That'll be useful, won't it? And let's sort of tweak our angle a bit as well. Give it a bit more depth. Where we at? This one over here. Awesome. So that'll be our first shot. And I'm just going to tweak the B's position a bit as well as towards this final point. And is he tucked in behind? He has. So our camera, we see our character zoom in, start talking. He's rising a bit too high up the screen though, I feel like. and then switch to a long shot. In fact, let's get into sort of stop still a bit sooner. And I'm going to by copying and pasting this point. And I'm going to put an easy ease on this just to smooth it out. And then wait till we switch to this long shot. Where we appear to still be zooming out. Darn it. We don't need any keyframes on this second one. So let's turn our keyframes off, because this is sort of just a static long shot. Right, so long shot flies over to the woman, and at this point over here, we want to cut back and see our next shot. So let's find, make sure it's point perfect, cool, and drag you over here because female B is going to be sat here talking, ready to talk, and we want this B. And what we'll do is we'll scale him up a little bit as well. And he's ready to now do his talking. Cool, and he's ready. That's already. Might put a little bit of B movement on there, make him look like he's sort of floating up and down. So a little bit down. And then a little bit up. Control C, Control V, Control C, Control V. Alright, let's have a look. Cool, and that shot's pretty much ready. There's one more shot that I'd like to sort of put in here, and another thing to do with cameras, and that is my opening shot. So again, let me import my file. So instead of usual, go to File, Import, and I have this establishing shot, which I'm going to leave set as a composition. I'm going to double click it, check, make sure I'm in HD. Yep, I did design it in HD. So here I have 3 layers. Got my background, my tree, my hive. Actually, my tree and my hive should have probably been the same one, so I should have merged those. I'll just pre-com this together. Tree. Cool, and again, let's turn these into 3D layers and go Layer, New, Camera. And as this is our establishing shot, what we can have is a sort of title, and then if we want to, we want to zoom in into this hive, because we want to tell the audience all this is taking place in the hive. And that's what an establishing shot is and what that does. So again, what we can do is go into our transform and do our position, and let's go into to view, and this time I want to give it a bit more depth, and how I'm going to achieve that depth is by creating this tree. And if I zoom out on this, we can see that they're on separate layers, got that bit of distance, and I can get my layer background, push it outwards, and I'm going to have to scale it up a bit. And all I'm going to do is, this should have only been about 4 seconds long as well when I create this. All I'm going to do is get my camera, and well, let me demonstrate real quick. What I've done is if I use this camera tool up here by creating depth, is put them further away from each other. So it looks like there's a bit more going on. So if I start with a shot like this, let me have it. And then go into something like this but more zoomed in, it should look pretty cool. So that's my end shot, and let me start with my first shot. Shall we go over here? Let's go over this way. So let's say that's our first shot, and this is our end. We're also going to want to sort of zoom in in the correct place. Press V to switch back to your hand. Find the hive so we know where we're zooming in on. Drag all these over there. Switch this over there. And zoom in. We're going to have to tweak this shot actually a little bit more, because what we can see is we've gone a bit wrong. So we're going to need to zoom in a little bit and hide that. Awesome. And let me take this background, probably scale it down a little bit, but pull it across. So we know at this point all of our action is taking place in this shot, and we can actually cut back to where we've done all of our camera stuff before. And at the start, what I'm going to do is import that composition which I just made, which was my establishing shot composition, drag that to the start, and we don't want this camera to actually start until about there, or when it's done. And we're going to have to scale this one now because we did this in full HD actually, didn't we? So let's go S and type in 50 for 50%. So our shot is pretty much set up. We've got our establishing shot, which could probably last a bit longer. So let's take these, pull it to the right a bit. And cool, and all we need to do now is add our next character for him to talk to, repeat some of the previous steps like the lip syncing and any kind of positional movement that we want to do, and we're pretty much ready. It's pretty much done. So I'm not sure I'm going to do another tutorial with this. I might just sort of speed model it, almost speed create it, speed run it, and just record it and trim it down for you should you want to see it. But ultimately it's done, and the next thing is for me just to finish it off, polish it, add the next character, and render it out. I will upload the finished product to YouTube when it's done, and please come back and check that out. Hopefully you've been following along, or you've learned something from this series that you can apply to your own work, to your own cartoons, your own animation, and you found it useful. Again, as always, thanks for watching.